It's strange how ordinary moments can end up changing your entire life. I met Laura at a 4th of July barbecue, of all places. It was one of those humid Midwest afternoons, the kind where everyone's shirt sticks to their back before they've even made it to the cooler. My buddy Greg had invited me last minute. His cousin was in town, and they needed more people for bags. I almost didn't go. I'd been in a bit of a slump back then, still nursing the end of a long-term relationship and spending most weekends reorganizing my garage like it was going to solve something. But I went, and there she was. She wasn't trying to be the center of attention, Laura never does, but somehow people just gravitate to her. She was standing near the grill arguing with Greg about the best way to toast a bun. She had a beer in one hand and was waving a spatula around with the other. It made me laugh. I said something dumb, like, should I call the fire department now or later? She turned, raised an eyebrow, and smirked. That was the first look she ever gave me. I've seen it 1,000 times since. We clicked fast. I'd never really believed in that kind of thing before, that immediate sense of ease with someone, but with her, it was there. We started dating within a week. A year later, we moved into a small place together, then upgraded to a house in the suburbs once we both hit our early 30s. Got married in between all that. It's been 7 years since we said our vows. Life's been good. Steady. We're not flashy. No Instagram perfect vacations or rooftop dinner photos. Just two people who have built a life together that fits us. I work in cybersecurity, mostly remote, which means I'm in the home office a lot. Laura's in marketing. She's got that people-person charisma that makes her great at what she does. She's always got a news story about a client or an office mishap. We balance each other out. I'm the quiet one. She brings the energy. Weekdays are predictable in the best way. I wake up first, make coffee, and let our dog, Murphy, out in the backyard. Laura usually comes down half asleep, wrapped in a blanket like a burrito. We talk over breakfast, sometimes just about what we need from the grocery store, sometimes deeper stuff. After work, we cook together when we're both home, though she's way better in the kitchen than I am. She jokes that I'm the sous chef and she's the talent. Weekends are our recharge days. Saturday mornings at the farmer's market, Sunday afternoons watching football or working in the yard. We don't have kids, not by choice, exactly, just how things panned out, but we've made our own little world. It's calm, familiar. I've always been a creature of habit, and Laura has always made the routine feel alive. Life with her has never been boring. She's got this laugh that you can hear from 2 rooms away, the kind that makes you laugh even if you don't know what the joke is. That's the kind of home we've built together. Warm, full of in-jokes and half-finished projects. It's not perfect, but it's ours. Laura's not the type to sleep in. Even on weekends, she's usually up before me, already halfway through a to-do list I didn't even know existed. She's one of those people who needs momentum. I'll stumble into the kitchen Saturday morning, and she's already unloading the dishwasher, booking us tickets to some local food festival, and talking about repainting the guest room, all before I've had my first sip of coffee. And yet, somehow, it doesn't feel like chaos. She makes it feel normal. Comforting, even. I've come to rely on that rhythm. Our life together is stitched together by the kind of small moments that don't seem like much until you step back and look at the whole. Thursday night takeout on the couch, half watching a show we've both already seen. Sunday morning crossword puzzles. The way she always texts me when she gets somewhere, even if it's just the grocery store. She'll say she's doing it for safety, but I think it's more than that. I think she just wants me to know she's okay, that I matter. We're not one of those couples that shares everything. We've always given each other space. I've got my books and my home office set up with my clunky dual monitors. She's got her yoga mat, her gardening obsession, and that stack of half-read memoirs she insists she'll finish when things slow down. We do our own thing and then come back to each other at the end of the day. That's always been the rhythm. Independent, but intertwined. Our friends joke that we're low-key boring, and they're probably right. We don't throw parties, we're terrible at group vacations, and our idea of a wild night is going out for drinks and being home by 10. But it works for us. There's never been pressure to perform, to post, to prove something. What we have is quiet, but it's real. She has a habit of humming when she's focused, not full songs, just little tuneless fragments. Drives me a bit nuts when I'm on a Zoom call, but I never tell her to stop. It's weirdly comforting. Like a clock ticking in the next room. We've talked about traveling more. She wants to go to Italy. I've always wanted to see the Northern Lights. We keep pushing it off, saying next year will be better. More time, more money, fewer obligations. Life has a way of making you feel like the good stuff is always just around the corner. But we've had our share of adventures too: road trips, spontaneous weekend getaways, bad airbums we still joke about. I guess if you asked me to describe our marriage in one word, I'd say solid. Not flashy, not perfect, but dependable. Something you can lean on when the world feels heavy. And I never once questioned that she felt the same. We've been in this house for almost 5 years now. It's not huge: 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a backyard just big enough for Murphy to chase squirrels he never catches. But it's ours. We painted every wall ourselves the first summer we moved in. Laura picked the colors, naturally. I just did my best not to drip paint on the hardwood. The guest room doubles as her creative corner. She's into DIY stuff lately. For a while, it was resin art. Then it was candles. Now it's watercolor. She's got bins and brushes and a little cart with neatly labeled drawers. It used to annoy me how fast she hopped from hobby to hobby, but honestly, I admire it. She follows her curiosity. I'm more of a stick-with-what-you-know kind of guy, and she gently pushes me to try more. Our bedroom faces the sunrise, and most mornings she leaves the blinds cracked so the light filters in just right. It used to wake me up too early, but now it's part of the routine. She likes mornings. She says it's the only time the world feels quiet enough to think. I like evenings, that soft stretch of time after dinner, when the house feels like it's exhaling. That's when we talk the most. Not about big stuff, necessarily. Just us. Work. Her coworkers. The dog. What to watch next. We both come from divorced families. Neither of us grew up with a model of what a healthy marriage looked like, which might be why we've always worked hard to protect ours. We made a pact early on. No games, no mind reading. Just honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. And we've stuck to that, as far as I can tell. We talk things out. We check in. We fight fair, or we try to at least. Vacations, for us, are usually simple. A few days in the mountains. An Airbnb by a lake. One time we rented a tiny cabin with no Wi-Fi and spent the whole weekend reading and making campfire meals. She said it was one of the best trips we've ever taken. We don't chase luxury. We chase peace. Sometimes I think about how easy it would have been for our paths not to cross. One missed invite. One weekend I stayed home instead of going to that barbecue, and none of this would have happened. No shared routines. No Saturday morning farmers markets. No Murphy. No soft laughter echoing down the hallway when she's watching a show on her laptop. I don't think love is always this movie moment kind of thing. For us, it's been something steadier. Like weathering life together. Celebrating little wins. Showing up, even when you're tired. Especially then. People say marriage takes work, and they're right. But when it's the right person, the work feels like part of the rhythm. Like tending a garden. You don't mind the effort when the view is worth it. That's how it's felt with Laura. At least, that's how I've always seen it. It was a Thursday night, one of those late summer evenings where the heat finally starts to lift, and you can leave the windows open without turning the house into a sauna. We had just finished dinner, nothing fancy, just some grilled chicken and roasted veggies, Laura's doing, and we're settling into the usual lull of the evening. Murphy was curled up at her feet, the sound of a true crime podcast murmuring from her phone on the counter. I was half listening when she turned to me and said, almost casually, "Hey, I've been meaning to ask you something." I looked up from my laptop. Shoot. So, Kelsey and Hannah are planning a little getaway next month. Just a long weekend, like 4 or 5 days, nothing crazy. They want to go to Tulum. Tulum. I raised an eyebrow, more out of surprise than anything else. That's not exactly a cheap little weekend. She laughed. Okay, true. But we found a good deal. Kelsey's friend works for this boutique hotel. It's off-season, so the rates are way lower. And I've been dying to go somewhere with sun. I leaned back in my chair. When would this be? Mid-September. Like the 14th through the 18th. I'd use PTO, and we'd split the cost, obviously. But I was wondering if you'd be cool with helping out a little financially. She paused, then added with a smile, just because, your bonus came through and mine's not until next quarter. There was no awkwardness in the way she asked. No guilt. Just the kind of familiarity you earn over years of being with someone. We've always helped each other when it came to money. Her paying the electric bill when my car needed repairs, me covering a plane ticket when she wanted to visit her cousin in Denver. It was never about keeping score. Yeah, sure, I said without much thought. How much are we talking? About $1,200, all in. Flights, hotel, food. I'd cover what I can, but if you could swing like $700 of it, that would help a lot. I nodded. Yeah, no problem. Just send me whatever details you have and I'll transfer it to your account. Her face lit up in that easy way it always does when she's relieved. Thank you. I promise it won't be all cocktails and Instagram photos. I'll bring you back something local. Better be something good for $700, I joked. She rolled her eyes and tossed a dish towel at me, laughing. And that was that. Just another ordinary evening in our very ordinary marriage. Later that night, I watched her at the kitchen table booking the flight, earbuds in, humming to herself. She looked content, peaceful, like someone who had something to look forward to. I remember feeling good that I could give her that, a little escape, some time with her friends, a break from routine. She works hard. She deserved it. Looking back now, I keep going over that conversation in my head. Not because anything felt off at the time, but because I keep wondering when exactly the shift began. If there was a moment where something cracked that I just didn't notice. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back then, I didn't suspect a thing. I wouldn't say I noticed it right away. If anything, it started like a breeze slipping through a closed window, so faint you wonder if it was ever there at all. The week after Laura booked her trip, things didn't change in any dramatic way. She was still herself. Still making her oat milk lattes in the morning, still yelling at Murphy for barking at squirrels, still leaving her towel on the bathroom floor like she always does. But there were small things, barely perceptible shifts, like how she started taking her phone into the bathroom with her more often, or how she tilted the screen away when I walked past her on the couch. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone's a little cagey about their phone. It's basically a second brain now. I've got nothing to hide on mine, but that doesn't mean I want someone reading every meme or dumb group chat I'm in. Still, it caught my attention. One night, we were brushing our teeth side by side. She had her phone propped up against the mirror, scrolling something while rinsing her mouth. She laughed, one of those little giggles that lives in her throat, and I asked, "What's funny?" She hesitated. "Just a beat." "Oh, just Kelsey being ridiculous in the group chat." I nodded. "Send it to me." She blinked. "It's not that funny, just, you know how she is." And that was it. Not a big moment. Not something you'd write down. But the pause stuck with me. I didn't say anything. Didn't pry. We'd never had that kind of relationship. I trusted her. I still did. I told myself she was probably just texting about the trip, or venting about work. That maybe I was reading too much into it because the house had been quiet lately and my own head had been noisier than usual. But then there were the workouts. Laura's always been into fitness, but suddenly she was back to running after work almost every day, not unusual in itself, except she'd usually been more of a 3 times a week and maybe yoga kind of person. Now she was out 5, sometimes 6 evenings. Tight leggings, crop tops, new sneakers I hadn't seen before. She looked good. She knew she looked good. And maybe that's all it was. Maybe she was just feeling herself again after a long stretch of rainy months and pandemic weight and blah routines. But I don't know. One evening, she came home flushed and smiling. She was on the phone when she walked in, talking low. I couldn't hear who she was talking to. She waved at me with a kind of breezy, distracted energy and disappeared upstairs, still laughing softly. 15 minutes later, she came down freshly showered, smelling like lavender and eucalyptus. She plopped on the couch beside me, asked what I was watching, and leaned into me like nothing had changed. And maybe nothing had. But something about the way her hair was still damp, the way her smile flickered just a little too long, kept me from answering her right away. I did eventually, of course. I always do. I don't want to be that guy paranoid and jealous and insecure over nothing. She deserves better than that. But if I'm being honest, something's tugging at me now. Something I can't name, exactly. Not a fear. Not a certainty. Just a feeling. A few nights ago, I woke up and realized the bed was empty. It was close to 2 a.m., and for a moment I thought Laura had gone to the bathroom. But when I got up to get a glass of water, I noticed the faint glow of her phone lighting up the hallway outside the guest room. The door was cracked just enough to catch the edge of her voice. I couldn't hear much. Just soft, clipped phrases and that strange tone people get when they think they're being careful. Not a whisper, not quite. More like a hush stitched with urgency. The kind of voice you use when you're saying something that feels important, but you don't want the walls to remember. I stood there, holding the empty glass, debating whether to knock or just walk away. After maybe 20 seconds, the light went dark, and her door creaked open. She startled when she saw me. "Hey," she said too brightly. "You okay? I could ask you the same." She smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Just couldn't sleep." I was scrolling TikTok and fell down a rabbit hole. Didn't want to keep you up with the sound. I nodded. She leaned in and kissed me on the cheek, then walked past like nothing had happened. And maybe nothing had. Maybe she really was just watching videos. Maybe she was on the phone with Kelsey, or her sister, or someone I wouldn't think twice about. But something about how fast she smiled, how prepared she seemed to explain herself, made the back of my neck itch. Since she started planning the trip, I've noticed little things piling up. Her nails are suddenly always done, not chipped from gardening or dishes like usual, but polished and precise. New clothes have started showing up in the laundry, tags already snipped off before I ever see the bags. I found a bikini I didn't recognize the other day when I was doing the wash. It was bright red. Laura never wears red. Maybe that sounds petty, obsessive even, but it's not the bikini, or the phone, or the late-night whispers. It's the quiet space that's crept in between us. Like we're still moving through the same rooms, but not in sync anymore. I told myself that everyone changes. People grow, develop new interests. Maybe she's just getting excited for the trip. Who wouldn't want to look good on a beach with their girlfriends? Maybe she's just investing in herself. I should be happy for her, not suspicious. She's not mine to control. That's not what love is. But love, real love, is also about knowing someone. Their rhythms, their habits, the little flickers in their behavior. And lately, Laura's rhythm has been off. Not dramatically, just enough to notice if you're paying close attention. I haven't brought any of it up. I don't want to make her feel watched, or accused, or backed into a corner. There's nothing solid to point to. Nothing I can hold up and say, this is why I'm worried. But the feeling hasn't gone away. It's deepening, slowly, like a storm forming beyond the horizon. Too far to see clearly, but close enough that you can feel the pressure change. And I don't know what that means yet. Laura's trip was a week away, and the house had started to shift around it. Not physically, no boxes or bags cluttering the living room, but in the subtle, invisible way energy changes when someone is getting ready to be elsewhere. Her focus was different. Conversations drifted. She smiled, but not quite the same way. The kind of smile that didn't seem meant for me. It's a strange thing, watching your wife pack for a vacation and feeling like the one being left behind isn't just you, but something else, something bigger. I wasn't jealous. Not exactly. I've always believed people need time apart, room to breathe. But the way she moved through our home that week felt more like she was untangling herself from it than preparing to come back to it. She ordered new luggage. Not a cheap carry-on or a practical weekender, but one of those sleek designer bags with rose gold zippers and built-in compartments for jewelry. I only noticed it when it arrived, and she opened it in the hallway like it was a gift she'd been waiting months for. I asked her about it, and she said, "Well, I figured if I'm finally going to travel again, I might as well do it right." Fair enough. She deserved nice things. But when I walked into the bedroom later that evening, I caught her placing outfits inside the new suitcase like she was rehearsing, laying out dresses, matching shoes, delicate little sets of lingerie I hadn't seen before. She didn't hear me come in at first. When she did, she quickly folded a shirt and said, "Just checking how much I can fit. I always overpack." At work, I found myself checking the time more often than usual, wondering where she was, wondering what she was doing. I'd never done that before, not in all our years together. It wasn't that I thought she was lying, not exactly. It's that I couldn't tell anymore when she was being herself versus when she was playing a version of herself. One night she came home later than expected, saying she grabbed dinner with the girls after work. Her eyes were bright, her cheeks flushed like she'd had a couple of drinks. I asked who went and what they talked about. She told me, casually, laughing at something I didn't hear. But something about the way she said it, like it had been rehearsed, packaged, sat wrong in my gut. I didn't push. I smiled, kissed her on the forehead, and told her I was going to bed early. And the thing is, she wasn't doing anything objectively wrong. That's what made it so difficult to sort out in my head. She wasn't sneaking in at midnight. She wasn't picking fights or avoiding me. She still sent me texts during the day, still asked how work was going, still kissed me goodbye in the mornings. But it all had the faint scent of something performative, like someone checking boxes on a list titled, "What a Good Wife Does." And once that doubt creeps in, even the normal starts to feel uncanny. A smile becomes suspicious. A silence stretches too long. You start to question what was never questionable before. I found myself scrolling through our old photos one night after she'd fallen asleep. Pictures from our last trip together. Just the two of us, 2 summers ago in Colorado. We'd stayed in a little mountain cabin with creaky floors and no cell service. She'd worn my hoodie every morning and complained about the instant coffee, but she was so alive that week. She'd taken hundreds of photos, wildflowers, lake reflections, blurry selfies of us laughing. In every one of those pictures, there's a warmth in her face that I could feel through the screen. I looked at those images for a long time, then glanced across the room at her sleeping shape curled beneath the blanket. She looked peaceful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the woman in those photos and the woman in my bed were starting to feel like two different people. I didn't tell anyone what I was feeling. Not my brother, not my best friend, not even the guys at work who I usually confide in after a couple of beers. I didn't know how to say it out loud without sounding paranoid or insecure. Laura hadn't done anything that couldn't be explained. She was excited about a vacation. She was taking care of herself. She was living her life. And I loved that about her. I still do. But something's different. I don't know what it is. I can't name it. I just feel it in the spaces between us. In her phone lighting up when she thinks I'm not looking. In the new perfume I smelled on her collar the other day, sweet, floral, unfamiliar. In the way she smiled at her reflection in the mirror, like she was practicing. I'm probably overthinking it. I hope I am. But something's coming. I don't know what. And I don't know how ready I am for it. She left for Tulum on a Thursday. Early flight. I offered to drive her to the airport, but she waved me off, said the girls had booked a rideshare together and wanted to kick off the trip from the second they left the driveway. She was buzzing with energy that morning, more awake than I'd ever seen her at 5:30 a.m. Sun hat hanging from her carry-on, iced coffee already in hand, lip gloss on, hair down. I told her she looked beautiful. She smiled, pecked me on the cheek, and said, "Be good while I'm gone." "Always," I said. And I meant it. The house was too quiet after she left. Murphy paced around the front door for a while before curling into a sulk near the window. I worked a full day, tried to get ahead on a few things, but I kept checking my phone more than usual. No messages from her. Not until around 3 p.m., when she texted, "Landed. Hotel is amazing already. I'll call you later tonight," smiley face. I stared at that smiley face for a while, wondering if she meant it. She didn't call that night. The next day, sometime after lunch, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. No words. Just a video file. The sender's name was Kelsey. I hesitated before tapping play. I don't even know why. Some part of me already knew it wasn't a cat video or a beach sunset. It was 27 seconds long. Shaky footage, like it had been recorded in a rush, from behind a shaded cabana. It opened with a few frames of the ocean, then panned in. There was Laura. Not just Laura. Laura on top of a man I didn't recognize, straddling him on a lounge chair by the pool, bikini straps down around her waist, his hands gripping her like he didn't care who saw. She was laughing that laugh. The one that used to be mine. Her face was glowing, flushed, tilted back toward the sun. She kissed him like she meant it. Like she had kissed him before. I watched it 3 times, not because I wanted to, but because my brain couldn't process it in one pass. My body went numb, like someone had cut the power to my limbs. My ears were ringing. I didn't even notice Murphy pawing at me until the 4th loop, when I closed the video and just sat there. 27 seconds. That's all it took to unravel everything. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I couldn't even move for a while. Just sat on the edge of the couch, watching the reflection of the window against the blank screen of my phone. She was in another country, touching someone else like I didn't exist. And the worst part? She looked happy. Not guilty. Not hesitant. Just alive. The message from Kelsey came 10 minutes later. "You don't deserve this. I'm sorry. I thought she'd change her mind once we got here. She didn't. I can't keep covering for her. I'll leave you alone after this." I didn't reply. I just sat there with that sick, hollow feeling in my gut, like someone had scooped out the center of me and left the skin intact. I wasn't angry. Not yet. That came later. In that moment, all I felt was this aching kind of stillness. Not sadness. Not disbelief. Just a quiet, vibrating numbness that hummed in my chest and made everything around me feel suddenly unfamiliar. She was still there. In paradise. Living like a free woman. And I was here, holding the weight of a truth I hadn't asked for. A truth I couldn't unsee. I don't remember falling asleep that night. I just remember the quiet, how loud it felt. I must have passed out sometime around dawn, still dressed, still holding my phone like the screen might light up again with another message, another gut punch. It didn't. Laura didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't know yet that I knew. And somehow, that made the silence worse. When I woke, everything felt slow. Not like shock anymore, more like precision. Cold, clear. I moved through the house with a kind of mechanical detachment, brushing my teeth, feeding Murphy, pulling on clothes like it was any other Saturday. But my thoughts were sharp. I wasn't dazed anymore. I was planning. By noon, I had changed the locks. It was easier than I thought it would be. I called a locksmith, told him I'd lost a set of keys and didn't want to take any chances. He was polite, didn't ask questions, didn't seem to notice that I was staring through him the whole time. When he handed me the new keys, I held them in my palm for a long time after he left, like they were something sacred. A barrier. A beginning. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and wrote her a check. $700. The same amount I'd given her for the trip. I wrote it out carefully, slowly, like I was carving it into stone. In the memo line, I wrote 3 words in block letters. I know everything. I folded the check once, tucked it into an envelope, and slid it into her drawer in the office, the one she always opens first when she comes home. No note. No threats. Just the truth, sitting there quietly. I wanted her to walk in and feel the shift before she even saw it. I wanted her to reach for the doorknob and find it wouldn't turn. I wanted her to stand there, in that space between denial and panic, knowing something had changed, really changed, and not knowing what she'd find waiting for her. But that wasn't enough. I won't pretend I handled the next part with grace. I won't pretend I thought about consequences or dignity or forgiveness. I was angry. I was furious. I wanted to burn something, to stain the memory of what she did with something she couldn't forget. And so, I did something I swore I'd never do. I called her sister. It started as a conversation, awkward, hesitant, me asking if she wanted to get coffee. We'd always gotten along. Not close, but there was an easy familiarity there. She was divorced herself, a little jaded, sharp-witted, someone who never quite bought into the perfect marriage image Laura liked to project. We met that evening. I didn't tell her everything at first. I just said Laura had been lying to me, that I felt like a fool. She listened. She didn't defend her sister, which surprised me. She just said, quietly, "You deserve better." One thing led to another. I won't pretend it just happened, like I tripped and fell into it. No, it was deliberate. It was messy and impulsive and absolutely wrong, and I did it anyway. It wasn't about attraction. It wasn't about love. It was about taking something back. About hurting Laura the way she'd hurt me. About not feeling like a powerless, blindsided idiot sitting in a house that suddenly didn't feel like mine. When it was over, she stayed for a while. We didn't talk much. She knew it wasn't about her. I think that's why she let it happen. We were both just playing out something broken in our lives. The next day, I packed up a few of Laura's things, not all of them. Just enough to make a point. Her travel toothbrush. A few pairs of underwear. That red bikini. I left it all in a bag by the front door, like a sad little monument to everything she'd thrown away. And then I waited. She was supposed to come home Sunday night. I didn't text. Didn't call. Just went about my day like nothing had happened. By the time her plane touched down, I imagined she was already piecing things together. She didn't message me to say she landed. Didn't ask for a ride. But around 10 p.m., I saw her headlights pull into the driveway. Then they stopped. Then nothing. 5 minutes. 10. I could see her silhouette behind the wheel, motionless. Like she couldn't bring herself to get out. Eventually, she walked up to the door, tried her key. Tried it again. Then I heard her knock. Then pounding. Then the muffled sound of her voice. Not shouting. Not yet. Just calling my name, over and over. I didn't answer. Eventually, she stopped. The next morning, my phone lit up with missed calls, messages. "Please talk to me. It's not what you think. Let's just talk. Please." I didn't reply. I won't. Because there's nothing left to say. The first full day after she tried to come back felt like stepping into someone else's life. The house was still, not quiet, but hollow, like the walls had absorbed the shouting she never got to let out and were now echoing it back in whispers. Her scent still clung to the sheets. Her robe still hung on the hook behind the bathroom door. And yet, it was as if she no longer existed here. Her presence had been replaced by an absence that was almost louder. I walked from room to room in my own home and felt like I was visiting the aftermath of something. Not a crime scene, not exactly, but a place where something important had died. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just moved through it like I was cataloging the damage, touching every surface she had touched, letting the emptiness sink in deep enough to feel real. The texts kept coming for a few more days. Not a flood. She wasn't stupid enough for that, but steady. Apologies, explanations, excuses dressed up like vulnerability. I was confused. It was one time. You don't know the whole story. But I did know. I knew more than enough. And the worst part wasn't the sex or the lies, it was the ease. The way she laughed in that video. The way she moved with that man like she hadn't thought of me in weeks. Maybe months. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a moment of freedom. She was herself out there. Carefree, unburdened, alive. And in that moment, I think I saw the truth more clearly than I ever had in the last 7 years. I saw the version of her she saved for herself, the one she never invited me to meet. So I stopped answering. I blocked her number, removed her from my social media, and told our mutual friends that I didn't want updates or peace offerings. If she wanted closure, she'd have to find it in the echo of a locked door and an unanswered phone. And as for me, I started making decisions. Small ones at first, deleting her shows from the watch list, tossing the mug she always used, changing the sheets. Then bigger ones. I took time off work, started seeing a therapist, and went to stay with my brother for a few days just to be somewhere that didn't smell like her shampoo or hold the ghosts of our routine. I told myself I didn't want revenge. I'd already had it. I don't regret what I did with her sister, though I haven't spoken to her since. It wasn't love, and it wasn't healing. It was just a way to assert, if only for one night, that I wasn't powerless, that I still had choices, that I could still matter to someone, even if it came from a place of wreckage. What came after, though, that was what really mattered. That was the slow, painful, deliberate process of making a new life. Not out of spite, not out of rage, but because I had to. I sold the house. It wasn't a rash decision. I thought about it for a few days, walked through it in the quiet hours before sunrise, and tried to imagine living there without her. Without us. And I couldn't. Every room had a memory with her fingerprints on it. The living room where we danced to no music, the kitchen where she burned pancakes and swore me to secrecy, the bedroom where we used to lie in silence after long days, just existing together. It was all tainted now. Familiar, but poisoned. I didn't want to exorcise her from it. I wanted to leave it behind entirely. I rented a small place across town. Nothing special. One bedroom, creaky floors, a tiny balcony that overlooks a grocery store parking lot. But it's mine. The first night I slept there, I didn't dream about her. I didn't dream at all. And when I woke up to the sound of traffic instead of silence, it felt like a pulse, like I was part of something again. Like maybe, just maybe, I was going to be okay. And then, there was someone new. Her name's Melissa. I met her through a friend of a friend, and it wasn't planned. I wasn't looking. I was just sitting at a brewery, talking about nothing, when she laughed at something I said. Not politely, not out of kindness, but because she meant it. And in that moment, it didn't feel like betrayal or rushing or trying to fill a void. It felt like breath after a long time underwater. She asked about my past, and I told her the truth, most of it. She didn't flinch. She didn't try to solve me. She just listened. We've only been out twice, and I don't know what it is yet. But when she held my hand in her car after our second date, I didn't feel the urge to pull away. I didn't feel guilty. I felt like maybe I deserved to be held, too. Laura is still out there somewhere. Maybe she's still with the guy from the beach. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's trying to spin the story into something that makes her the one who was hurt. I don't know. I don't care. What we had wasn't fake. I'll never say that. But it ended long before I realized, and now that I've stepped out of it, I can see how much of myself I left behind trying to hold it together. I'm not trying to erase the past. I'm just finally ready to stop living inside of it. It's been 3 months since she came back to a locked door. She did try again. Once. Maybe twice. A letter in the mailbox. An email with no subject line. One of our mutual friends told me she showed up to their birthday party alone, stayed for 10 minutes, and left early. I don't know if she's embarrassed, if she feels regret, or if she's just rebuilding somewhere else with someone new. I don't ask. I don't check. I don't need to. The version of me who would have obsessed over those details, what she said, who she's with, whether she misses me, that man is gone. Or maybe not gone, exactly. Maybe just retired. Worn out. Quieted. I don't carry that weight with me anymore. And it's not because I found someone better or because I got revenge or closure or some big revelation. It's because eventually the pain stopped serving a purpose. It was like carrying a knife in my own back and calling it memory. These days, I wake up without dread in my chest. I drink my coffee on that stupid little balcony and watch the world go by. And I'm learning that peace doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it comes in tiny pieces: an unbothered morning, a clean room, the absence of questions you no longer need answers to. I see Melissa once or twice a week. It's slow, it's light, and it's nothing I need to define just yet. She makes me laugh, and she doesn't flinch when I talk about the past in a voice that still breaks sometimes. That's enough for now. There are still moments when it all hits me again: the image of Laura by that pool, the way her voice used to sound half asleep in the mornings, the feeling of our home before I knew it was a house of mirrors. Sometimes I remember how easily she lied, how completely she moved on without a trace of hesitation. Those moments sting, sure, but they don't stop me anymore. They don't knock the air out of me like they used to. Now, they just pass through me like wine through an open window. I've started writing again. Nothing public, just small reflections, memories, letters I never sent. It helps. I think, for a while, I forgot who I was outside of her, who I was before we. Now, piece by piece, I'm meeting myself again. And I'm realizing I like this man. He's quieter, yes. A little more guarded. But he's honest. He's still here. He made it. There's a kind of freedom that comes after devastation, once the dust settles and you realize you've survived something that should have broken you. I don't say that dramatically, I mean it literally. There were nights I felt hollow, unraveling, like a shadow of the man I used to be. But I didn't disappear. I didn't lose myself. I was just in the process of becoming someone new. So this is the last thing I'll say about Laura. She taught me how deep love can go, and how deep betrayal can cut. She reminded me that people can be beautiful and cruel in the same breath, and that sometimes you don't see who they are until they're no longer pretending to be who you need. I loved her. I really did. But love alone doesn't make something worth holding on to. Trust does. Respect does. And once those are gone, what you're left with isn't partnership. It's performance. I'm done performing. The story doesn't end with revenge or some epic moral victory. It ends here with me, standing on solid ground again. Older. Wiser. Still healing. But finally, free.